Well, there's a lot of articles on YouTube and also magazines that are putting out, there's been these changes to the ETRTO. And what has put a bit of a question mark up is this doesn't actually follow now what the manufacturers are recommending on their manufacturing guidelines. For instance, tyre width compared to the internal width of the rim. Those things are different. And this has raised a few eyebrows to go, well, hang on a sec, if manufacturers are disagreeing with the ETRTO, what does that mean? Who should we follow? Now, before we jump in and talk about, is this a good thing, a bad thing, what does all this mean? What we need to understand is, what is the ETRTO? What is the position of being able to enforce these requirements? And what is the ETRTO? Is it a standard? Is it law? Is it something the government endorsed? What the hell is it? Well, let's roll an intro and let's have a bit of a talk about first what the ETRTO is and what is the impact of that in the bicycle industry. So what is the ETRTO? Now, the ETRTO is a organisation that basically puts out industry guidelines. Now, that's quite different to a standard or to the law. And we probably all heard of standards. I'm in Australia, so we have Australian standards, and then you have European standards, which are ISO, and you also have American standards, which I think are called ASO. I've lost it in my mind at this point in time, but there is an American standard, and I can't remember the abbreviation. But there's all these standards around the world. Now, even if you have a standard, which is an American standard, European standard, or Australian standard, that doesn't mean it's mandatory. The only time that a standard will become mandatory is if it's enshrined in law. So what the government do, they go, hey, because we think there's dangers in this industry, what we're going to do is we're going to get that standard and we're going to write that into the law. So then it becomes a mandatory standard. And what has to happen is in that country, you have to comply to that standard if you want to do that work or make something in association with that standard. So that's how the standards work. They generally are not mandatory, and guidelines are generally not mandatory either. It's only if they're enshrined in law. I mean, that's actually quite rare. So this ETRTO, it's not a standard, it's what we call an industry guideline or a code. So in no way do you need to follow it. Manufacturers who make tyres can go off and do whatever they like and go, ETRTO, yeah, what, bug off. We don't care what you're saying. We can do what we like because we have expertise and we can make our tyres and rims however we like. And we provide a warranty for that. So see you later. So what is this group for? What it is it's to give a baseline or a agreement across the industry that everyone has a representative that may go on this working group and they can come to some sorts of consensus. So everyone can go, hang on a sec, we've got some base guideline. Instead of everyone going off and doing something different, the consumers can understand what we're talking about. So when we use this format and we write it on the tyre, people understand what that means. So it just gives some sort of agreement that makes it easy for people who are buying products in the industry to understand what the industry is saying to their consumers. And you can see that on all sorts of tyres, even car tyres, bicycle tyres, everything. They have a certain format that they use to represent the height of the tyre, the width of the tyre, or whatever. And we can all understand that because they're following some set guideline. And that's what the ETRTO is. Now, what's happened is they've met and they've updated this guideline, and it varies from what a lot of bicycle manufacturers are saying currently compared to internal width versus what sort of tyre you can fit on it. Now, I probably would say, now I don't know, but I probably would say that on the working group there was some discussion and people from certain companies didn't agree with other companies, and what got legs is what's in the standard now. Some people probably maybe disagree with it in the working group, but others says no, for these reasons we want it to be like this, what we're recommending, and that's what we've got now. So if we look at it, what the standard is saying, that if you've got a 25mm internal rim for a hookless, you need to run a minimum of a 29mm tyre. Now, there will be some reason for that. We don't know what that is, but someone would have argued that for some specific reason. But other manufacturer groups may have disagreed with that when they had the discussions in the working group. But when they voted, or there was a consensus, what we've got now is what was mostly agreed on. So that's how we've got to what would have been in that standard now from those discussions in that working group. So it probably has some legitimacy what they've put in there now, and there would be some reasons why they wanted it like that. We don't know that. We don't know what was discussed in the working group, but that's where we are. Now, getting back to, should we follow the ETRTO or should we follow our manufacturer specifications? Now, generally, I would say you follow the manufacturer specifications, but as you know, I've been around for quite a while. A lot of other people have been around for quite a while. We've been making videos, and the theme has been is that the bicycle industry, really the engineering competence and also the quality control in the bicycle industry is not that great. And that makes sense because, you know, if you have all these other industries, how is the bicycle industry going to attract the best engineers? They just haven't got the money. You know, there's other industries that are worth, you know, hundreds of times more value, and they can get the best engineers. For instance, the automotive industry would have better engineers in it than the bicycle industry, and that's just because they can pay more and they can attract better engineers, and cars are more complicated than bicycles, so they would have the best in those areas. So the bicycle industry in general is the engineering is fairly basic. I mean, we might talk about the latest bikes and we might talk about, you know, compatibility and flexibility of the frames and all this carbon and bottom brackets and hydraulic disc brakes. But in general, that's fairly basic engineering as far as manufacturing goes. It's not high-end engineering. So my point is the industry, the bicycle industry has not shown that it's extremely competent in what it's doing. We have designs that come out, then they move away from them. We even have the disc brakes now with the Shimano type discs, and the way they've designed their ice tech, they can damage very, very easily. They can have galling, you know, if they get too hot. We also have had problems with rubbing, and we've also had a whole list of recalls and products with items they've been making for decades. So it doesn't give us a lot of confidence when we talk about the bicycle industry and the competency, and should we go by the bicycle industry over a working group that is writing an industry guideline. Now, my thoughts in particular are I'm not a big fan of hookless tyres and hookless rims, and the reason why is because it's a fairly new technology. The bicycle industry has shown, as I've just said, the competency is not that great for designing new technologies, and also you're only relying on the tyre manufacturer, the way the tyres are made, to hold that tyre on the rim. There is no hooks whatsoever. It's that expansion, that those two walls of the side of the hookless, they're not holding the tyre on. You need to understand that. What's holding the tyre on is the unstretchable threads in the tyre that don't allow it to expand like a balloon. When you blow up a balloon, it just expands. And if you had it in a hookless, it would just pop out. But the reason why your tyre doesn't just pop out is because there's unstretchable threads in that tyre and it can't expand. So it's held in, even though it's under pressure, it's held into the hooks. So that's how it's held onto the tyre. And my view is I don't think the bicycle industry, unlike the automotive industry, can really make products that well that I've got confidence to rely on something of a technology like that. At least with tubeless, with clinches, you have that extra barrier, have that hook. Even though it is a combination of unstretchable threads and the hook, it's not actually relying fully on the tyre. And when you go to a tube tyre, well, that's completely different. They don't need unstretchable threads because there is a differential of pressure between the tube and the tire, so you don't have that problem of it like expanding and blowing off, because the tube is putting pressure against the hooks to hold it on. And then obviously you've got tubulars, which is what I ride. They're a completely concealed device, so there is no pressure applied to the rim whatsoever. They're just glued on. The rim has no pressure applied to it whatsoever. So that's the technologies that we've got in the tire. Now, if I was recommending to you guys, I would say with proven technology that's been out for a long time. It's been proven by tires that have been proven, by rims that have been proven, that we know work well, and they've worked well and had minimal problems over a significant amount of time. So what basically I'm saying is that, hey, look, they've been out in the industry, they've been tried and tested, and they work. Whilst with newer technology like hookless rims, they have a number of limitations. And we even know there's a pressure limitation, and that's because they know the tire is under, the tire itself significantly is under a lot more stress, because it has no hooks or nothing on the tire to actually hold it in. It's just a strand of the tire that are holding on. So they've obviously been cautious about that and kept the pressure quite low. Well, anyway, guys, that's my review on these updates to the ETRTO. It's up to you guys what you want to ride and what you want to use, but my recommendation is I wouldn't be jumping into a hookless technology where you need to spend specific money on a new rim and new tires, and once you've bought that, you're locked into that technology. It's not like you can just try it and then go back. Like a rim can fit hookless or clinches, and you can just go backwards and forwards. It's not like that. You have to buy into the whole new technology, and if you're not happy with it, then you've got these rims and tires and everything that don't fit anything else. Anyway, guys, leave your comments down below. What do you think about this change to the ETRTO and manufacturers having a different opinion of what's come out in the latest guideline? And that's where I'm going to leave it, and I'll see you guys next video.